Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Allison Maloney. Well, kids are heading back to schools, but what about the teachers? The nation is facing a shortage of teachers, and joining us now to talk about it is the president and founder of Parents Defending Education, a mother in Fairfax, Virginia, Nicole Neily. Nicole, welcome back to Wake Up America. So Fairfax schools are back in session. There was a question on whether you had the staffing necessary. Have you seen a change in teachers returning to the classroom, and is this affecting children in your district, in other districts that you have friends in?
Sure. Well, across the country, we're being told that there is a significant teacher shortage. And of course, we hear from people like Randy Weingarten that this is the fault of parents, that parents are over politicizing the classroom. But it's funny because we talk to teachers and we have friends at outlets like Chalkboard Review that have actually polled teachers. And when we find out why teachers aren't returning, it's actually because of lots of other factors. It's not because of pay. It's not because of politicized education. It's things like masks. It's things like the curriculum that they're being forced to teach because of their districts or their states. And in some districts, there actually is not a teacher shortage. There might be mid-level staffing issues like bus drivers. And so I think what we're hearing right now is a lot of confusion that's intended to guilt and further shame parents and discourage them from speaking up. But the picture is not as clear-cut as the teachers' unions would have you believe.
Yeah, I don't think that it's going to stop parents from speaking up, especially what we've seen that's happening in our kids' classroom. Mom of three, so I'm definitely very vocal in my kids' district. So you talked about polling teachers. We know COVID-19, the masks, all of that had pressure. What else is it? Why are teachers retiring? Why are people not going into education in general, do you think?
A top reason that we hear actually is because of student discipline issues, that children after 2 years of being locked out of classrooms don't know how to behave in those settings. And when teachers want to remove disruptive students from it, they're not backed up by their teachers or their administrations. And unfortunately, this comes from the very top. We have the Biden administration that has been pushing things like disparate impact analysis with student discipline. Max Eden at the American Enterprise Institute actually wrote a whole book about this, theorizing that that's one of the reasons that the Parkland shooting occurred, because there are students that are being flagged for being discipline issues, but they're not being taken out of classrooms. They're not being removed because of their race. We are actually intentionally treating students differently on the basis of their skin color when it comes to discipline. And what that ends up doing is it hurts the entire school. It hurts the entire class because a disruptive student is then preventing 20 or 30 other children from learning because administrators are scared of saying, oh, well, you know, a racial minority student has been removed from class. And that's not how we should be making these decisions. These should be the decisions of teachers and principals, not set by the White House.
Yeah, Nicole, I have friends who are teachers, and they say just in the last 5 or 6 years, the amount of children who have, caused problems, it's increased. The Secretary of Education said states should be using federal stimulus money to address the shortage, helping to retain the teachers. But do you think this is a solution? Because everything I read said it's not really about the pay.
It's not really about the pay, no. And it's funny because even when they say that, what do we know that districts and states are going to turn around and spend the money on? They're going to spend the money padding their pockets, putting pet programs in. We've seen with ESSER funds how a lot of districts have turned around and spent that money on things like social emotional learning. When that bill was passed in February 2021, many parents, myself included, assumed that meant they were going to put air purifiers in so we could reopen our schools. And so I think even if that's something that Secretary Cardona, throws out there as a salvo to parents, it's not actually going to happen on the ground. And so the solution to what's going on in our schools is not more money. We have seen the amount of money thrown at public schools double since 1970. Yeah. And frankly, achievement hasn't gone up. And we're not, what's happening in classrooms is we're not focusing on making up that learning loss. And so we're going to continue to see families run away from the public school system because they're not getting what parents expect.
Yeah, you saw, Nicole, what happened during COVID-19. A lot of parents, if they could, they put their kids in private school, or they've decided to homeschool their kids. I do want to ask you this one last question, though, because a lot of districts are loosening their qualifications to get teachers in the classroom. Some are saying, we'll hire you if you don't have a college degree yet. Some are hiring, veterans. Some are hiring people based on their work experience in the field. While that may be a good short-term solution, how does that make you feel as a parent if you have somebody in your classroom teaching your child that didn't go to school necessarily for education?
The teacher training pipeline is definitely something that should be reimagined. My father-in-law was a NASA engineer. He worked on the Apollo project, and when he wanted to go teach in the Boston public school system, he was told he needed a master's degree. And look at what's happening in our teacher training schools, colleges of education like Columbia or even state universities. It marinates teachers in 2 to 4 years of critical race theory, critical queer theory. And so I think we have people who want to teach, but then when they have to go through these programs, they're indoctrinated themselves. And so I think it's the kind of thing where we have to kind of examine all options right now, because what's happening right now is not working. And again, it's controlled by the teachers union.
You're right. And sometimes work experience gives you far more experience than those 4 or 5 years in college. Nicole Neily, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck for your school year with your kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.